this is a good way to segue into like what you do, and because these subjects, so many of these subjects, so many people have like an instantaneous reaction.
Yeah.
And that instantaneous reaction is, oh, hogwash. If this was true, I would already know about it. It would be taught in universities.
Yep.
It would all be. But then you find out like no one is really just kind of trying to piece stuff together, specifically talking about these ancient languages.
Thousands of years ago, mysterious writings about Adam and Eve appeared in hidden scrolls, an ancient library. For centuries, most people never even knew these texts existed. Then, cutting-edge artificial intelligence was applied to these manuscripts, exposing a secret message that challenges mainstream ideas about our origins. Could an ancient story, once buried in forgotten archives, hold a surprising truth? Let's step into the unknown. The discovery of life of Adam and Eve. In 1886, a partial manuscript emerged from a remote monastery library, bearing the title, Life of Adam and Eve. Scholars realized it closely paralleled biblical Genesis, but included far more detail on Adam and Eve's life after their expulsion from Eden. Over the years, additional copies were found in Greek, Latin, and Slavonic, each preserving slightly different versions. This text described events and emotional struggles absent from the traditional Genesis story. Researchers initially dismissed it as simple folklore. Yet, with each new manuscript, they noticed a consistent storyline extending across distant regions. The parallels suggested a common source that once circulated widely. This set the stage for modern analysis, revealing how this expanded tale might reshape our understanding of early humanity. Unexpected artifacts in the Nag Hammadi. In 1945, farmers near Nag Hammadi, Egypt, discovered clay jars filled with ancient papyri. Among them were Gnostic texts referencing stories of Adam and Eve beyond the biblical account. These manuscripts, dated to the 3rd and 4th centuries CE, included descriptions of hidden teachings given to Adam by angelic beings. Although the life of Adam and Eve itself wasn't in the jars, parallels emerged. The Nag Hammadi writings referenced Adam's spiritual awareness and an extended cast of celestial figures. Scholars saw these texts as fringe beliefs until they noticed linguistic overlaps with the life of Adam and Eve. This solidified the notion that an underground tradition flourished, preserving details about humanity's earliest days. From this moment, curiosity grew about what else might be hidden in these overlapping accounts. Dead Sea Scroll connection. In 1947, Bedouin shepherds stumbled upon the Dead Sea Scrolls in caves near Qumran. Most of the scrolls contained biblical books and religious documents, but a few fragments caught experts' eyes. One piece, labeled 4Q Adam, contained lines referencing Adam's sorrow after exile from Eden, closely mirroring segments found in Life of Adam and Eve. These fragments, dated around 100 BCE, predated many known Christian writings. This discovery shattered the assumption that expanded Adam narratives were purely medieval fables. Instead, it proved such stories circulated in Jewish communities centuries before Christianity's spread. Suddenly, the life of Adam and Eve wasn't just a late curiosity, it was rooted in a genuine ancient heritage, bridging biblical tradition and forgotten lore. Early artificial intelligence, studies on ancient texts. Long before generative AI made headlines, universities experimented with computational linguistics to categorize ancient manuscripts. In 2019, scholars at the University of Groningen unveiled an AI tool that identified scribal hands in the Dead Sea Scrolls. By tracking subtle pen strokes, the software detected multiple authors contributing to single scrolls. Encouraged by these successes, researchers broadened their scope. They fed the Life of Adam and Eve manuscripts in multiple languages into machine learning models. Their goal was to spot hidden patterns, word frequencies, and unusual phrases. Early findings confirmed that certain passages shared a deeper linguistic core, pointing to an original text older than any single translation. This was a stepping stone to a much bigger breakthrough. The Multilingual Merge Project. In 2021, a global team calling itself the Multilingual Merge Project launched an ambitious plan. They compiled every known version of the life of Adam and Eve, from Latin manuscripts in the Vatican to Slavonic copies in the Balkans, digital scans from the British Library, and scattered medieval references. The group's aim was to unify these texts into a comprehensive, carefully aligned database. Over 12 months, AI software cross-referenced each sentence, building a matrix of consistent narrative elements. Where Latin might preserve one detail, Greek might add another, and Armenian might alter a phrase. By merging them, the project effectively reconstructed an older form of the story, revealing sections that had been missing or censored over centuries. The stage was set to see the text's bigger picture. Modern validations of ancient medicine. One surprising element discovered through AI cross-checking involved Adam's supposed healing knowledge. The text described him collecting leaves from a tree of compassion to treat Eve's injuries. Dismissed as legend for years, it gained renewed interest when researchers realized the described leaves resembled a species of the willow family. Willow bark is now known to contain salicin, a predecessor to aspirin. This echoed earlier biblical references to medicinal plants like hyssop. But now, specific remedies matched modern phytochemistry. Additionally, a portion about bitter seeds that soothe burning fevers aligned with fenugreek usage in ancient Sumer. Each confirmed detail lent credibility, suggesting that whoever compiled these narratives preserved real medical lore from the dawn of recorded history. Göbekli Tepe links. Turkey's Göbekli Tepe, dated around 9600 BCE, is one of the oldest known temple complexes. Its giant stone pillars hold carvings of animals and symbols. Some investigators notice parallels between these carvings and certain descriptions in the life of Adam and Eve. Though the text never explicitly names Göbekli Tepe, it alludes to an earliest sanctuary where Adam built altars. The text also mentions stylized depictions of serpents and vultures, images that appear on Göbekli Tepe pillars. Archaeologists remain cautious, but the repeated motifs are intriguing. Could the memory of such a place have survived as oral tradition, later shaping the expanded Adam narratives? If so, it's another sign that these texts may preserve echoes of a distant past once dismissed as purely myth. Dramatic emotions after Eden. Genesis describes Adam and Eve's fall, then leaps ahead to the birth of Cain and Abel. But Life of Adam and Eve explores raw grief and confusion in that aftermath. It speaks of Adam standing outside Eden's sealed gate for weeks, weeping for the lost light once clothing their bodies. Eve, overwhelmed by guilt, attempts extreme fasting in hopes that an angel might reopen the garden. Such emotional detail is rarely seen in ancient religious texts. This authenticity struck scholars as reminiscent of laments found in Sumerian or Egyptian funerary writings. Readers glimpse two people, once intimately connected with a divine presence, now grappling with heartbreak and physical frailty. This depth of human struggle resonates across millennia, reminding us that myths can carry very real emotional truths. Angelic teachings in hidden sections. Traditionally, readers see Adam and Eve as naive and alone post-Eden. Yet newly revealed passages feature repeated angelic visitations. One angel, identified as Michael, supposedly taught Adam how to cultivate wheat and craft rudimentary tools. Another, named Suriel, guided Eve in herbal medicines to ease childbirth pains. These episodes transform the usual notion of lonely exiles. Instead, they highlight a careful, supervised transition into mortal life. The text describes a structured learning process: forging iron, domesticating sheep, weaving cloth. It's reminiscent of how Mesopotamian myths credit gods for teaching civilizations crafts. While mainstream theology might see angels as distant, Life of Adam and Eve depicts them as active mentors, bridging humanity's lost perfection and its newfound survival tasks. The unspoken powers of humanity. One recurrent theme across versions is the suggestion that pre-fall humans held extraordinary capacities, often referred to as unspoken powers. The text claims Adam and Eve initially could direct elements, command water to part, ask fire to recede. Even after the fall, tiny traces remained. One Aramaic fragment recounts Adam calming a raging river during a flash flood, though the feat left him exhausted. Modern commentators compare this to legends of saints or yogis influencing nature. Could these stories be symbolic? Possibly. Yet AI analysis indicates near-universal references to these powers. If they're purely symbolic, why do they appear so consistently across languages and centuries? Perhaps they hint at a broader ancient belief that humans once had deeper integration with the cosmos. Apocalyptic visions and technology. In a startling portion, Adam supposedly dreams of distant ages when machines shaped like men would serve humanity's tasks and knowledge would circle the earth faster than birds. Interpreted as poetic hyperbole for centuries, AI-based linguistics singled out these verses as strikingly unique. The text language surprisingly aligns with descriptions of advanced technology. Some lines mention windows of colored light, linking distant lands, reminiscent of screen-based communication. Another references bright forges that echo without flame, suggesting electric or nuclear power. This has fueled speculation that ancient writers intuited or glimpsed future developments in the faintest sense. While skeptics argue coincidence, the parallels are impossible to ignore once we see them. Could we be living in the era these archaic lines dimly foresaw? Rebellious angels and their motives. We often think fallen angels appear only after original sin, but Life of Adam and Eve clarifies that certain rebel angels, led by one named Satanael or Semjaza in different versions, acted even before Eden's creation. Jealous of God's plan to elevate humans, they conspired to sabotage Adam and Eve's potential. One passage reveals these angels taught early humans destructive uses of nature, creating weapons from metals or misusing plants for harm. The text doesn't portray them as simply evil, but as locked in bitterness, unwilling to see humanity surpass them in divine favor. This resonates with some Enochic traditions, describing watchers who introduced forbidden arts. Many versions overlap in a cautionary theme. Knowledge by itself isn't evil, but in jealous hands, it can be catastrophic. Ethical warnings on power, a recurring lesson in these new passages. Knowledge can bring liberation or downfall, depending on moral grounding. The text paints a vivid image of Adam, sorrowful not solely for losing Eden's pleasures, but for misusing the power entrusted to him. He regrets ignoring a fundamental ethic, to only shape reality for collective benefit, never from ego or greed. This ethic, transmitted by an archangel in the narrative, resonates with modern caution about nuclear arms, genetic engineering, and AI. For the text's ancient scribes, the tragedy wasn't knowledge itself, but the absence of wisdom to guide its use. AI-based analysis underscores how often moral guidance pairs with references to advanced capabilities, implying that from the earliest retellings, the story was a cautionary tale about power without virtue. Spiritual practices embedded in the text. A section known as Adam's Lamentations describes him performing specific physical postures, breath patterns, and chanting certain syllables to reconnect with the Edenic light. Eve, likewise, is shown using rhythmic movements and periods of fasting to purify her awareness. These details, once brushed off as medieval ascetic folklore, turned heads when parallel practices were identified in older texts from Syria and early Christian monastic writings. Step by step, the text reveals breathing cycles reminiscent of modern mindfulness or yoga traditions, suggesting that some forms of spiritual discipline have very deep roots indeed. This synergy between bodily discipline and mental focus signals a holistic approach to regaining lost perception. Perhaps the text served partly as a guide for regaining Edenic consciousness, not merely recounting a fall from grace. Hints of ancient astronomy. Though overshadowed by mystical content, the life of Adam and Eve also includes references to stars and constellations. It recounts how Adam used sky patterns to predict seasonal changes, essential for surviving outside Eden. The text names certain star groups, some aligning with Mesopotamian or Greek constellations, indicating cross-cultural knowledge. A puzzling passage describes binding the dragon star near the horizon, possibly referring to the constellation Draco. AI analysis flagged repeated lines about a turning star that marks a new era, prompting speculation that the scribes wove in cyclical astronomy. If these references reflect real star observations from pre-biblical times, it suggests the narrative's compilers tapped into advanced sky-watching traditions, weaving cosmic knowledge into spiritual allegory. Returning to Eden's principle. One recurring phrase the AI uncovered can be rendered the measure of returning. It appears around references to redemption, restoration, and a final cosmic renewal. This phrase, absent in simpler translations, suggests that Eden wasn't lost forever, but awaits re-entry through a moral or spiritual measure. The text claims that each generation can progress or regress, reflecting a dynamic path. Eden becomes less a locked garden and more a symbol of higher consciousness that humankind might reclaim collectively. Combined with the chiasm's pivot on renewal of form, the text points to an overarching theme. We fell from a luminous state and gained the burden of free will. Over time, guided by angels, we refine ourselves, bridging knowledge with virtue until Edenic awareness becomes possible again. Real-time AI applications to religious texts. By 2023, AI-based textual analysis had moved beyond academic curiosity into major biblical studies conferences. Tools like neural translation memory and pattern recognition are now standard. The Life of Adam and Eve project was a flagship success, showing how AI can unify scattered manuscripts. Spurred by this, teams are applying similar techniques to other apocryphal works, like the Book of Enoch, the Testament of Solomon, and the Odes of Solomon. Each reveals hidden structures or cross-cultural references. So, though the Adam and Eve text garners headlines for its shocking themes, it also paved a way for the broader digitization and decoding of ancient spiritual writings. We're entering an era where data science breathes new life into dusty parchment, forging connections once deemed impossible. Comparison to other origin stories. Interestingly, parallel origin stories crop up worldwide. Sumerian myths detail the creation of humans from divine blood and clay. Mesoamerican tales speak of previous human prototypes molded from maize. African myths often highlight people living alongside spirits before a cosmic split. Each tradition, like Life of Adam and Eve, suggests early humans possessed heightened faculties. AI analysis of cross-cultural creation narratives reveals patterns: initial unity with divine realms, a pivotal breach or fall, and a prophecy of eventual return. While local motifs vary, feathers versus clay, serpents versus giant birds, the structure repeats. This near-universal pattern hints at a global heritage. Could we all be telling variants of the same cosmic memory? The discomfort of regaining potential. If these manuscripts are correct, humanity was once more capable, more attuned to cosmic energies. That notion can spark excitement or fear. Why fear? Because it implies our current worldview might be drastically incomplete. Accepting that we might reclaim lost faculties requires rethinking daily life, science, religion, everything. The text claims Adam glimpsed a future when children of dust recall their luminous birthright. But it also warns of a painful process. Unlearning narrow perspectives can be emotionally wrenching. People typically resist such paradigm shifts. Even if we approach these stories symbolically, the challenge remains. Are we living far below our potential? Life of Adam and Eve echoes an ancient alarm clock, whispering that we might awaken from a mass amnesia at any moment. Scientific dialogue with spirituality. A silver lining emerges as scientific voices increasingly join the conversation. Neuroscientists study advanced meditation to see how the brain changes. Physicists explore consciousness' role in quantum phenomena. Psychologists investigate transpersonal experiences once dismissed as fantasy. Meanwhile, the Adam and Eve text, reinterpreted, outlines a spiritual progression from fragmentation to wholeness. This synergy forms a new frontier where age-old insights meet peer-reviewed research. AI-based philology merely jump-started the conversation. The real step forward comes when we dare to test these ideas in controlled studies, personal practices, or ethical frameworks. It's no longer about blind faith or cold skepticism, but a dynamic interplay. Perhaps this is the deeper, unexpected message. The future belongs to integrated knowledge that honors both logic and wonder. Contemporary lessons from ancient voices. At a time when technology evolves at breakneck speed, we face moral crossroads. Gene editing, artificial intelligence, climate engineering. These are powers once imagined as divine. Life of Adam and Eve underscores that possessing advanced capabilities isn't enough. An ethical, compassionate heart must guide them. The text repeatedly frames humanity's tragedy as not just losing Eden, but losing humility. We forgot we're part of a vast living tapestry, tricking ourselves into illusions of supremacy. Yet hope shines through its final chapters. Each crisis can become a catalyst for deeper harmony, if we remember our original design of interconnectedness. In this sense, the book's message feels surprisingly modern. The ancients caution us about overreach and invite us to reclaim a balanced stewardship of the earth. A glimpse of the path ahead. So, what's next? Scholars vow to continue deciphering obscure chapters, while historians track real-world data that might confirm or contradict the text's claims. Meanwhile, spiritual seekers explore Adam and Eve techniques that promise a taste of that lost Edenic vision, be it intuitive empathy with nature or states of deep meditative stillness. In parallel, emerging technologies like VR, AI, and biohacking ironically mirror these ancient predictions? Are we forging a path back to paradise or risking a second cosmic stumble? The final pages of Life of Adam and Eve hint that love, humility, and service stand as keys. Reclaiming our luminous essence isn't about dominating creation, but harmonizing with it. And maybe that's the ultimate cosmic secret AI just helped us remember. Ancient manuscripts can hold more than dusty legends. When we let modern tools shine on old words, entire worlds can open before our eyes. Thanks for watching.